Carolyn, are you introducing? Well, hey, everybody. Great to see you today. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Michael, and welcome to the LoveWorks Dreamers and Doers podcast, episode number 36. And it's a LoveWorks. We believe that you are never too young to be a big dreamer, and you are never too old, Carolyn, to get started working on that dream.
That is for sure. And our hope with Dreamers and Doers is that each week our special guest is going to connect with you wherever you might find yourself today, going to help you and inspire you to become the best version of yourself for tomorrow.
That is so true. And Carolyn, I was just even thinking prior to us going live that, this is a podcast where there's no thrills, there's no spills, there's no ads, there's no sponsors. But we just get right into stuff and start talking about big dreams and leadership and challenges and fun stories and all that great stuff.
For sure. And I'm excited. It's a great way to kick off your Monday morning. That's for sure.
No, it definitely is. Well, kick us off, Carolyn. So we the last several weeks now, we've been focusing on one of our big values at LoveWorks, which is personal growth. And if you happen to ever be in the state of Oklahoma, more specifically Norman, we'd love for you to visit our campus. But if you walk into our campus, not only will you see Norman and possibly Oklahoma's largest ball pit, although there's lots of fact checkers out there, so I'm sure we might already have a comment that we're not. But we do have a big ball pit, but we have a big room, and we call our communication studio, and there's a mantra, one of our values on the wall that says personal growth is a blast. And so each week, we just love to curate one aspect of personal growth, something that's either been encouraging and challenging us and or our students that we hope is going to add value to you. Just shortly after our pandemic started in March, we started our podcast, our Dreamers and Doers podcast, and we also had a special segment called Hope Around the World. And this is an opportunity during some hard and challenging times, we all just needed something that was positive and encourage and even uplifting. So Carolyn, why don't you kick us off? Do you have a hope around the world story you'd like to share?
I do. So this one is coming back from my hometown, from Tulsa. And so there's a 4-year-old girl. Her name is Violet, but she's also known as Chef Violet. And this story comes from her seeing a woman who was homeless out on the streets. And she asked her mom, like, what's going on with her? And her mom let her know, like, there are people who need money because they aren't able to have home and they aren't able to have food. And so this 4-year-old girl, Chef Violet, takes it upon herself, and it was her idea to actually have a bake sale. And through this bake sale, she did it totally COVID safe. It was through her driveway, and she raised over $600 to donate over to the regional food bank in Tulsa. Really amazing. That provided 24,000 meals for donation. So really cool. 4 years old. That's genius.
The number 24,000 meals?
24,000 meals.
Wow, that is incredible. Can't wait to see where she's at in the next 10 years.
For sure.
So I have a fun Hope Around the World story that I'd love to share. And those of you that are watching may have actually heard this. I heard about this story that just happened a little over a week ago. But there is a young athlete by the name of Chris Nikich that a year ago celebrated his 20th birthday, and both his mom and dad challenged Chris to do something big, and it was to sign up and compete and complete a full Ironman triathlon race. If you're unfamiliar with Ironman triathlon, it's a combination of swimming, biking, and running. You do a lot of it. It lasts almost the entirety of a day, and you have 17 hours to complete it. And the total distance is 140.6 miles. So I think that challenge alone would be a pretty big one for just about anybody. And what's interesting about Chris, though, is that Chris has Down syndrome, and he entered in being the first athlete that had the opportunity with Down syndrome to cross an Ironman finish line. And last Saturday on November 6th in Panama City Beach, Florida, Chris completed the full Ironman race. And it was just an incredible moment and story, so inspiring to just anybody out there. But was really heartwarming about this story is that Chris's mom, unfortunately, was not able to attend the race. He wasn't just feeling well. And so Chris came home that night and, of course, gave mom just a huge hug in the living room. And then he proceeded to take off his medal. And then he asked his mom if he could give the medal to her, and then medaled her with his Ironman medal, which is such a neat little story. So check that out on YouTube. Chris Nikich is his name, and it'll definitely touch your heart.
Oh, I bet. Those are what great stories, Michael, just to motivate us, inspire us, and, inspire us to be the best version of ourselves. Love it. Yeah, Brings us to our roll call time. So if you have any stories of great hope that you'd like to share, go ahead and drop that along with your name, where you're at, and what grade that you're in. Parents, if you're watching, we want to know who you are as well. So make sure you mention yourself. We got a fun question of the day today. That question is, have you ever met anyone famous? Have you ever met anyone famous? Michael?
It's a great question. I lived out in LA, as you know, for a couple of years. And so you would have thought that I would have been seeing celebrities all over the place. The closest that I came, though, was, and I don't know if students that are watching are consider him a celebrity, but as Cuba Gooding Jr. We didn't really actually have a conversation. I was walking out of a restaurant. He was walking into a restaurant. That's about as close as I've come, Carolyn.
That's pretty cool to me.
Yeah.
You made the movie Snow Dogs, so that's high key celebrity status.
Apparently Cuba likes seafood, so there you go.
In a similar brushing of events, I got to brunch next to Russell Westbrook, so that was my close encounter there. I did get to meet, I've gotten to meet a few like musical people, but my fun fact is probably the guy from Princess Diaries. His name's Michael. He's the nephew of Julia Roberts. Come on, not bad.
That's a pretty big deal. If you've met a celebrity, or even if you have an inspiring story that's really encouraged your heart, drop that in the chat box or the comment box. We would love to learn more about that. We do think, speaking of celebrities, Carolyn, in just a couple minutes, we're going to get a chance to interview somebody that we think is pretty darn cool and famous. But we'll get there in just a moment. I just want to remind you of our Dreamer and Doer format. We have the fortunate opportunity each week to be able to sit down with a different dreamer and doer, and this person gets a chance to share at least one dream story. And we not only hope that that inspires you, but we hope it's you hearing just some of the obstacles, maybe challenge and adversity that they've encountered along the way that will encourage your heart to keep going, to reach and go for that dream that you have in your heart.
For sure. And we've got a trivia question this time to warm you up for our particular guest. And so first person to answer this question correctly, we'll send a prize directly to your house. This one is for our country music fans out there. I'm talking about a little older country. This is fun. What is the name of the amusement park in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee? It's based around a country music entertainer with big blonde hair. So we're looking for the name of the amusement park in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, based around a really big, really amazingly blonde country music entertainer.
Nice. Carolyn, have you been there before?
I have not.
Okay.
I regret it now. I looked it up this weekend. I was like, whoa, this place looks cool.
Well, yeah, drop that in the comment box. Let's meet our dreamer and doer, special friend. We're going hometown today, Carolyn, with our guest today, and her name is Elle Shroyer.
With a background in global missions and educational program management, Elle is passionate about exploring other cultures and discovering new ways to think of things. More than anything, Elle enjoys meeting new people. She loves to listen and ask questions to inquire about hopes and dreams. She loves working with people to establish the steps of achieving their goals. She's happily married with 3 young kids who love raising little leaders and love working in the Loveworks garden. Hey, Elle.
Hey, Elle.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
Good.
This feels close. You're not too far away from us today, although we are in separate rooms and places. But you're here in Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, we're so excited to get into this interview today.
Yeah.
We joke around about how fortunate it is to get all of our staff in one place. And so this is really fun. We also have our staff member, Kat. She's on the broadcast, even though people don't see her right now, keeping it all together for us, for sure. So Elle, we talk a lot about being a dreamer, being a doer, and we pride ourselves at Loveworks here in being both. But we wanted to ask you, of course, would you consider yourself more of a natural dreamer or more of a natural doer?
I am definitely a more natural doer, but I definitely used to dream a lot bigger and just a lot more. I'm definitely still very creative, and I've got some awesome creative outlets at Loveworks, which is great. And I have 3 little ones that keep me on my toes and needing to be creative. So, but definitely a doer.
Elle, we're definitely going to talk about those 3 little ones, the great work that you're involved in here at Loveworks, but we would love for you to take us back maybe just a few years or a few more than that, but we want to get to know you just a little bit. And so can you tell us just more about your family and what was life like growing up?
Yeah, so I grew up in an amazing blended family. I had 4 parents. I grew up in Minnesota. My parents were really involved in the community, in the church, and just extra activities. And so I was surrounded by their friends, extended family. One interesting thing to note, my parents, who do not speak Spanish, found out about a full immersion elementary school to put me in. And so only me, not my step siblings, not my older brothers. I was the only one learning everything in Spanish and having to translate all my homework in English so I could get help. But it was an amazing experience. And then growing up, I loved to write, and that, was mainly poetry and then led to singing. And I was surrounded by music growing up. You guys mentioned it in the question. So I have met a lot of famous country stars through my stepdad in the country music business. And so for you younger folks, Blake Shelton, Dierks Bentley, maybe, and then several times with Kenny Chesney, who includes one of my most embarrassing stories, which we will not talk about right now.
So Elle, let's park there for just a moment. Give us just a glimpse what it was like, about approximately how old you were. And so would you just kind of hang out at the venues, be a little starstruck? Would you maybe do some writing, singer on your own, spend some time maybe dreaming in stardom that maybe one day that would be you on a stage?
Yeah. So when I was really young, so maybe 6 years old, was 6 or 7 was probably my first time, with my stepdad and my mom, meeting a star. And it really wasn't until high school that I really liked country music. So before then it was like, I would go with them. It'd be cool to see them play and see all this hoopla that goes along with all of that. But yeah, I never really even thought about it until now, preparing for this interview, that, that probably influenced a lot of my dream of one day being on stage with the guitar or piano, playing my songs. But yeah, it really became a dream to do that one day.
So we're gonna get to the one day in just a bit here, and I think that's just a good segue here for us.
Yeah.
To fast forward now just a few years, and of course you immerse yourself in music and with your family and with the travel and the venues that you were spending time in. Had a big passion for songwriting, but then your career began to take a different turn. And so, can you kind of tell us about just a transition? From potentially maybe, being and pursuing this singer-songwriter to your passion for missions and for travel?
Yeah, as a kid, and sometimes I feel like I still kind of struggle with this, when I think about something I want to do, I focus on it solely, and I forget kind of get tunnel vision. I forget about, all the other things that are out there. And so no matter what people said to me or how much it was going to cost, I was going to move to Nashville. I was going to go to Belmont University, and I was going to be a double major, music business and vocal performance. And, I, again, didn't really think about it until preparing for this interview, but, a big pivot for me was 9/11 was my first semester of college. And, amongst other things, I decided to move home and be closer to family. And that first year of college, I experienced some really hard things. I was really serious with a boyfriend, which now as a parent, I'm like, wait, just wait. But
are you offering some dating tips here for our students out?
Just wait.
Just wait. Okay.
I had a really hard breakup. I had a friend who really, really hurt me, all within a couple months period. And then later on, my father's death, right after college, I found it was harder to write. And, it was, and it's interesting because I think about artists and musicians, you write about what hurts, right? And for me, it did the opposite. I stopped writing, but I found an opportunity to kind of pour myself into others, and use the pain to be able to empathize with others and help other people grow. And so that's where the transition really happened, to really become just a doer. And I think you can actually get lost in that. So yeah, I feel like, difficult things can, steal your dreams, but you can also allow them to fuel you, to heal. And it took me a long time to heal. But, the advice that I would give is make sure you are reaching out to the right people to help you through the healing process. And that's something that took me a long time. I was surrounded by really awesome people, and I had lots of opportunities to help others, but I didn't really fully focus on my healing. So yeah. And then the transition, though, my father was always an adventurer. He talked to everybody and anyone. That's where I got it from. It's my dad. And he loved to travel. But the most important thing to him was his faith. And he really instilled that in me. And I found another joy in discovering new things. And I started to travel. I traveled throughout Central America. after college, and I started. I found out they had missions at my church, and I led a group of high school students to the Dominican Republic. And found a second home. They worked with an organization there that was just really doing good in the community, and just reaching people where they're at. And it was just really, really a wonderful thing. So I did that for about 6 or 7 years, doing short term in the transition to going long term. So yeah, it was wonderful. So yeah.
Elle, thank you for just bringing us through this journey and just being intimate with it too, and being, I mean, just sharing, you know, those details of how this dream was formed and how you kind of transitioned as well. And I think, you know, it's very, very relatable to our students that are out there that are maybe they're experiencing something that's really hard right now for them too. They may be feeling like their passion is not quite there, or maybe they're in the process of discovering something new. You said something earlier about how you kind of get focused in, and there's like a tunnel vision moment when you really connect with something. And I feel like that could be a trademark of a doer for sure, because sometimes doers, and I relate to this, we get caught up in the doing. And so I wanted to ask you, like, how does doing, of course, being a natural doer, affect your dreaming? And do you have any tips out there for the natural doer?
Yeah. So if you're a natural doer, you almost have to, and especially if you've gotten really good at the doing and being able to just move on to the next thing and all that, you almost have to intentionally make space to dream. And one thing that I've found that helps me is I organize my week where, okay, I'm going to do today, but tomorrow I'm going to work on this project and get creative and dream. It's really hard for me in one space that I'm working or doing things to switch up. So, but yeah, for a doer, take the time to create intentional space and do it, and maybe even get some accountability to say, hey, I'm going to journal every day and have a friend check in on you once a week. Like, how's that going? What are you writing about? What are you discovering? Yeah, you have to be intentional with it, because you can really get lost in the doing, and you get really tired in the doing because you're not taking care of yourself often with all the doing. So
that's for sure. I can agree with that. Dreaming is replenishing. It is.
It is.
Yeah.
And even thinking, I love what you said too, just about that making space. And, you know, something, you know, why I think it's so important for students to instill and begin to put these types of practices into play right now is because life doesn't get easier. It doesn't get less busy. And so it's one thing, you know, in our singleness and being students, and it doesn't mean that we don't have responsibilities. We definitely do. But then you look at potentially later in life, you know, with a spouse and kids, and maybe not just one, but maybe 3. And so, you know, sometimes you really have to fight, you know, to really find that space. And so, Elle, we're going to get a chance to talk about one of your little ones. You know, at LoveWorks, you know, you are definitely one of our greatest dreamers and doers here. And we're just inspired, you know, by you and always having a new idea, you know, to do this or to do that. You've had the opportunity to really help lead our Raising Little Leaders team. And Raising Little Leaders is a special story time for our little ones. And so we like to say that you're never too young, not only to be a dreamer, but to be a leader. And so you're flanked by 3 little ones, your kids, and one in particular, Amberly. Her spark really happened while watching one of our digital resources called At Home Leadership. So can you tell us a little bit more about that story and the hope around the world that is really taking place right now through your little one?
Yeah. So I will say, I just want to mention, so Raising Little Leaders is one of my amazingly creative outlets. And that is one of the things where I have to do my tasks and then the next day work on Raising Little Leaders, because it's just completely different side of my brain. But it's been really fun to just be creative, especially with the pandemic. We had to pivot and go online. And so taking after at-home leadership, which is for our middle school and high schoolers, you know, it's been really fun to kind of watch and go through at-home leadership and then kind of play off that and do Raising Little Leaders. But as I'm doing that at home, Amberly, my 7-year-old, saw you know, Carolyn on the screen and said, hey, what's that? And so we decided to do at-home leadership lessons together. and we were doing one a week, and we were on the third one, and it was focused on hosts and guests. And do you want to be a host or a guest? Do you want to take action and take a lead? Take a lead, or just want to kind of sit back and participate? And that was a really fun discussion with her. But the video that was included in the lesson was about a young lady, a high schooler, who had grown up with volunteering with her parents in a homeless shelter, and decided to hold birthday parties for the little kids there that were living there. And when I saw that, when we started the video, I was like, oh, this is interesting, because Amberly used to go with me to food and shelter before the pandemic, and be able to talk to the people in their dining room there and wipe off tables and all that. And she's asked about it. And her school, Le Monde International, is right next to food and shelter. And so she would often see some of the people that we would, hang out with during breakfast and lunch at food and shelter. And she was worried about them. She's like, how are they getting what they need? And, and so she saw this idea, and she looked at me, after we finished the video, and she said, Mom, what about the adults? Do they get to celebrate their birthdays? And I was like, I don't know. And she said, well, how do we find out? Who do I need to talk to? And I let her know that we can ask the director at Food and Shelter for a meeting. And so April and Amberly got on the phone together, or on Zoom, actually. I tried to stay off screen, and had a conversation about what they've done in the past and how they could move forward. And so they decided to have monthly birthday celebrations with birthday cake. And then Amberly really wanted to make sure that they got gifts. And so Amberly and I and her dad, who loves to bake, decided to come together and ask for donations and work with our community. And then we had an opportunity to work with a LoveWorks passion project with a couple of students. And we had our first celebration at the beginning of November, and it is amazing. And now Amberly asked for, she's doing a drive for sleeping bags and coats that we're going to do the first week of December. And it's just been amazing to see the response and to see her kind of grow into it. And, I'm not doing much for her. We'll talk about the posts we put on social media, and she, made videos to ask you guys if we could have the coats and sleeping bags dropped off there. She did the same with April, and then with Ryan at Life Church, she made videos for everybody to ask. And it's amazing to fuel her dreams, to be a part of it. It's been a dream of mine too, to do something that's needed in the community. And I have been thinking about it and praying about it, and haven't really come up with anything. And of course, we get it through my daughter. And I love that my husband is just, he's excited to bake every month. Really excited about it. So it's amazing. So the dream of doing ones.
Super special story. Way to see you just inspire your daughter and the leadership in her, the dreamer in her, and also giving a plug too on where these items could be dropped off, which is at LoveWorks. So who knows, Carolyn, and who's watching, we may have like semi trucks and U-Hauls coming by LoveWorks to drop things off for December.
Hey, Michael, that would be a dream come true.
That would be pretty awesome. Give us that problem to have, right?
For sure. Well, Elle, so love hearing that story, especially a family-powered dream. I think that's so cool just to see your entire family activated in this and doing something good. But we wanted to ask you, do you have a big dream that you're working on right now?
Yeah. So I don't know if this sounds like a big dream, but it's a really big dream of mine as a doer to take that initiative and create space to dream. And so my big dream right now is learning how to rest. And that doesn't mean sleep, although, I could definitely use more sleep, but it's learning how to refill my cup so that I can continue doing, but make sure that I'm remaining present and that I'm reading and developing myself so that I can grow and be a better leader and better servant to other people, and to take that time to dream. And so I am journaling. Not every day. I'm trying. But I say this interview, just preparing for this, has really helped me think about even actually song lyrics that I'd like to write down. I should say poetry. But I need to do it again. I need to. And maybe you two can keep me accountable. Let me know, like, hey. So.
Hey, we need all the accountability we can get. If you keep writing, Elle, I think there's someone else on this podcast that does some singing, so perhaps there could be a collaboration.
Yay!
I need lyrics on my desk by Tuesday. No, I'm kidding.
Hey, I'm just saying.
I do have one song that I probably should share with you and share the story behind that, because that is a dream that I haven't thought about, but I'd love to see that actually somebody write some music to it and someone else sing it.
There we go. Dreams are being birthed right now. Podcast number 36.
I love
Now,
it.
there's another question that we love to ask our dreamer and doer. And we ask you to go back to your middle school or high school self. And while you might not necessarily change anything, but if there was one bit of advice that you could whisper into your middle school or high school self's ear, what would that advice be?
Yeah, and so I have actually attended every single one of these interviews and listened to all of the podcasts. So it was really hard to try to
Thank
come
you
up
for being our biggest fan.
I am. So it might echo, which hopefully that just brings more confirmation of that it's true, an echo of some of the other interviewees people we've brought on here. But I say, don't worry about what others think of you as much as possible, and that's even hard as an adult, and especially for a doer. Be yourself. You are wonderful. Don't change yourself to fit in. Focus on what you love. Let that guide your priorities and your values. Figure out what those are, and then let those lead the way to your next adventure. Remember, life is an adventure. It's hard. It's beautiful. And then find someone you can trust and is making good decisions that you can talk with. And don't ever stop talking. I know that sounds funny, but don't stop talking about what's hurting you, what you love, what you want to change. Don't stop talking.
Good. That's great.
Well, Elle, thank you for sharing that. We also have our last minute link where we love to give our guest speaker here 60 seconds to share whatever is on your heart. So it could be maybe some poetry, it could be a song, it could be just some words out to the dreamers and doers out there. So I've got my timer here.
All right.
Not that we keep this too accurate, but you ready?
I am.
Carolyn, if there's anything we know about Elle, she's going to wrap up right at 59 seconds. We already know that, right?
I already know that. Elle, ready, set, go.
All right. Don't let the hurt you experience stop you from dreaming. Don't shut down. Talk to someone. Find the support that you need. Use the healing process to discover new dreams, a new purpose, a new adventure. Life can be so hard, but it can also be beautiful, as I said before, and you have the ability to make it beautiful for someone else.
Awesome. Thank you, Elle.
I think you still have 15 seconds left, so
I don't know.
way to safeguard the time here, Elle. I love it.
For sure. Well, Elle, thank you for sharing that on your heart. I think that's huge. That sometimes we can clam up, especially when hard things happen to us, but that's the moment when we need to release it the most. So, Elle, we're going to give you a quick break, and it will be quick. Viewers out there, now is the time. If you have questions for Elle, go ahead and drop those inside the chat. It could be around the country music stars that she has met, could be about her travels. She's gotten into maybe any trouble in any other countries, maybe.
Save that for another interview, Elle. Life lessons too.
For sure. Awesome. Michael.
Carolyn, takeaway time.
It is takeaway time. This is one of my favorite parts. I love getting to recap it.
Well, I think it is. And of course, we get to do this with each dreamer and doer, some that we know more than others. But even with Elle, being a team member here at LoveWorks, I definitely learned more. I love just the power of story and getting a chance to even go back and just hear, about a person's story, just where they grew up. And so I definitely have a few takeaways. I'll jump right in if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
I love one that I didn't expect Elle to say, and it was that don't stop talking. I love that because it was just right after, we've heard a lot of our guests, just say, not to be overly worried or concerned or take too much to heart what other people say about you, and unfortunately, whatever season of life we're in, or regardless of our age, if we're 11 years old or 31 years old, we may hear kind or unkind things said to us, but when we hear those unkind things, or perhaps in extreme cases, in that bullying, I think it's hard, to put into practice that advice of, well, just don't let it bother you and just keep moving forward. But I love the advice of don't stop talking. And she said to do it in two ways. Don't stop talking to someone you trust and you look up to about what's bothering you, but don't stop talking about that thing that you love. And I think both of those are so powerful when we're really talking about being comfortable, like in our own shoes, in our own identity, and who we are as young men and young women.
I know, I've never heard it quite said like that. And I enjoyed that of just like, keep talking. One of the big standouts, of course, I myself, I'm a doer. And so I loved her advice going out to the doers to make space for dreaming. I think that's huge because I think for a lot of people, 2020 honestly has been a really hard year where it's almost been a lot of reaction and reaction moves instead of being able to really plan things out and see those come to fruition. And so I think it's important for us, especially this year, to take time, make the time. To really dream and consider those things because things will get better again. They will.
Well, it's true. But I mean, we've said this earlier, not to get, we need to get back to Q&A, but I think the one unique thing that we've been given, setting aside, of course, just a lot of hard things. And you already mentioned that. The point of it's not to go into each of those things, but we were uniquely gifted with time. We just were. So many of us complain, we're so busy. Well, the busyness was really taken away from us. And so what were we left with? Time and space. I'm hoping that there is going to be a resurgence, Carolyn, I don't know if I'm, speaking prophetically here, but that there's going to be a creativity in art and in music and in film and with organizations like LoveWorks and others like ours that we have never seen before, because we were gifted with time, and hopefully we found some space, not to just be the doer, but also to dream. I'll pause there.
Like we could have recorded that one too and rebroadcast that one. That was awesome.
Well, let's bring Elle back. Elle, are you still with us?
I am.
Awesome. Great to see you. It's great to see you back. Well, we're going to have some time for questions and answers. So if you are watching and still have a question, please drop that in the comment box and chat box below. But Elle, we're going to get started with a first question from our website. So at loveworksleadership.org, we have a chat feature where you just tap on chat, and you have an opportunity to ask a question to our dreamer and doer, such as Kyla. So Kyla, take it away.
My name is Kyla, and I am 19 years old. I have a question for Elle. If you are like me as a doer, it is hard to say no. What are some practical tools to help saying no?
Practice, practice, practice. Practice in the mirror, practice with your friends. One really great tool, and I wish I could remember who gave this to me, but it's to pause. So I immediately always want to nod my head, say yes, I've got ideas, let's go. But to pause. And then now that I'm married, one of the things I also do and say, let me check with my husband, or let me talk with him just to make sure, we're good. And not to put it on him, which he would say, like, don't make it about me. But yeah, pause, ask somebody you trust, but don't say yes right away. And then one of my other favorite ones is to find an alternative. If you know that you really need to say no, but hate, dislike saying no, is to find an alternative for them. And then you're actually helping. So you are kind of saying yes.
That's good. Now, it looks like we have some other traveling dreamers out there. So buckle in your seatbelt because we're going to get asking about travel.
Okay.
We got a question from Colin, and he asked, what's your favorite place to travel to? What's your favorite place?
So my favorite is actually Vietnam. It was one of the last places I traveled to, and there was so much more to explore. But just the people, the food, the different places to see, the history. There's just so much. It was, and the food. The food was amazing.
Well, that segues into the next question from Nora, who asked, perhaps while traveling, maybe what's one of the most unique, distinctive foods that you have that you've tasted?
Oh gosh, and it's funny. I can see all the pictures in my head. I was actually pregnant when I was in Vietnam as well. One of the unique. I mean, I've eaten like all the parts of a fish, like whole, which I guess people in the United States do that as well. I've had pig intestines. I mean, just I took a bite of a scorpion, like a fried on a stick in China. I didn't eat the whole thing, but I took a bite of it. So it was, in Vietnam, there wasn't, I mean, I've eaten a lot of different things. So maybe by then it just didn't feel different, but it was just everything on the menu. Their ice cream is really good and they make it really fancy no matter where you go. So, yeah. I'd say ice cream. Ice cream in Vietnam.
Elle, I'd love to close out with this question. And, I think it's interesting. We get an opportunity, of course, to do amazing things just with students. And, we'd like to do adventures with students and take them to new restaurants. And it's interesting, with food, how quickly you're going to hear, I like something, or it's the extreme opposite. I hate something. There's almost like there's this no in between. I'm curious when it comes to travel, if finances were not an issue for a student, so you can push that excuse, off the table, whether you like to or you don't like to, what would be your recommendation about a student considering traveling and just getting, outside of their own zip code and going someplace else? It doesn't necessarily have to be out of the country per se, but what are your just thoughts about that in travel?
Like what my recommendation, where they should go or what they should
Not
do?
where they should go, but do you think that there is something to be held with the experience of being able to get out and to see new places, see different people, perhaps be exposed to different kinds of food and cuisine? What do you think about that?
Yeah, traveling. Golly, I mean, I think in Minnesota, I grew up in Minnesota, and I went and worked with a organization and a church with the Native American population up in northern Minnesota, and just even going there, but that was my first experience meeting people that had different traditions, different cultures within our culture, and learning to appreciate differences and learning how to ask questions, and also appreciating what you have. So it's difficult to appreciate being different or doing things differently until you experience it. And so whatever it is, experiencing something different, getting to know somebody that's different than you, asking questions and learning about them is going to expand your horizons. And you don't even have to leave LoveWorks. Talk to somebody, ask a question that you haven't asked before of somebody that's sitting right next to you. But yeah, traveling opens your eyes to appreciate what you have, to want to explore and learn other things. Traveling is one of the most amazing things you can do, but you can just travel down the street and experience something new. So yeah.
Oh, that's definitely true. Well, Elle, it has been an absolute delight having you on Dreamers and Doers today. Can we just give you a virtual high five?
High five. Let's do it.
No, you have not only, your dreaming and doing has not only inspired us as a team, but just countless others as part of the LoveWorks family. And we hope you that are watching today. So thank you, Elle, so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed today's Dreamer and Doer interview. We want to remind you too, just about other places that you can find our LoveWorks resources. And the next best place to go to would be loveworksleadership.org. You can see all of our digital resources that were mentioned just in our conversation today. And also too, want to encourage you to visit our YouTube channel, our LoveWorks Leadership YouTube channel. If you enjoyed the few stories that were shared today about hope around the world, earlier this year, post-pandemic, or not post-pandemic, but early on in our pandemic, March, April into May, we had several conversations and interviews with dreamers and doers literally from around the world. So we would love for you to check that out. And remember here at LoveWorks that we believe that you not only are never too young to be a dreamer, but you're not meant to blend in, but you're meant to stand out.
Dream big.
And do your dream.